again for being here. I know I got at least one person here in my ad, so that's a win for me. But my name is Elena. I am the marketing manager here at Big Red Jelly. So everything you see me posting about Big Red Jelly all the time, I just love to talk about how great our agency is. So basically, for those who don't know, Big Red Jelly is a brand, web design, and marketing agency. We follow a proven brand build grow process to help businesses find success. And it's really fun. We have a really good time while doing it. So let's go ahead and get started here. First, we just want to thank our sponsors. We always have Insperity as one of our sponsors. They're HR company for small businesses, so check them out. And then, of course, Calum, thank you for hosting us. We're always excited to be here. What a cute space, right? Look at all the plants and everything. It's so fun. Good vibe. What you guys all come for, of course, we do have prizes tonight. So we have a bunch of different prizes, some that are very business focused and some that are just fun, like iPad, and some Big Red Jelly merch that hasn't been released yet, so that's really exciting. None of our team even knows what it looks like, so, yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you. So, next slide, please. Go ahead and scan this QR code to enter the giveaway. So, make sure that you select on the form whether you would like to be entered in the business type giveaways or just a general giveaway. We'll kind of do that at the end of the event, but the system, we want to make sure everyone's information populates in the system before we get moving. Go ahead and take a minute to see everybody's eyes. I feel like I'm like an elementary school. Once I see your eyes, I will continue. Okay. Alright, awesome. Another thing that we have with our brand build grow process, we do have a free audit that you can scan, fill out some information about your business, and we'll kind of help you see where you can grow when it comes to your brand, your website, your marketing strategies. So totally free. You can use one of our strategists and talk about it. Feel free to scan as well. Massive QR codes, so hopefully you're able to scan it from that far away. I don't think I guess I could make the QR codes bigger, but that would be crazy. So, all right, everybody good? Awesome. Okay. So we have an amazing lineup of speakers tonight. We have Ashton Hopper from Big Jelly, one of our own, and then we've got Owen Power from Power CFO, and Richard Webb representing BBSI. So we have a really great lineup tonight. Super excited to hear from them and everything that they have to teach us. We will go ahead and get started with our good friend Ashton. So everybody give a hand for Ashton.
Everyone, thank you for being here. I feel really privileged to be here. I'm going to be honest, I'm not a public speaker, so I'm going to rely a lot on people, interaction from everyone to kind of make this go along. And yeah, let's get into it. Thank you again. I hope that you guys are able to learn something. I kind of learned some stuff as I was going through preparing for this, so hopefully we can kind of, continue to build off of that. My topic today, what it is that I wanted to speak about is specifically a growth flywheel. Has everybody heard that phrase before, flywheel? Great. 2 people. Awesome. I'm glad I'm talking about this. I chose the right topic. So we're going to go into this today. The whole theme of this is kind of building, just a self-sustaining model as a business owner. So I'm going to start with this question. How many people, by show of hands, feel like if they were to stop doing what they were doing in their business today, that growth would just be gone? Anyone? Show of hands? Yeah, that's a lot of hands. Okay, great. Cool. Further affirmation. I chose a good topic. I'm glad to see that lots of us feel the same way. Can I get those hands again, real quick? You, sir, right here.
Yeah.
Do you mind telling us who you are, what you do?
Yeah, Chris Drummond. I'm up here.
Okay.
I had a business that I started 25 years ago. We manufacture antennas for amateur radio. Started a second company about 8 years ago, and those are portable tripod and mast systems. I have a couple patents on those. Yes, unique aspects to those.
Really cool. That's awesome. So I'm curious, why do you feel like if you stopped what you were doing today, that your business would just fall off the cliff?
Well, I'm the only guy that's doing the sales,
Okay.
doing the marketing, trying to build a website of my own, everything.
Okay. So like many business owners, you wear about 12 different hats.
I say that exact phrase all the time.
Okay, all right, perfect. Well, I would venture to say that a lot of business owners feel exactly the same way. You know, it's difficult for us to go through and be successful when we have to do so many different things all at one time. And so the whole concept, and why I want to talk about this today, this growth flywheel mentality, is how we can kind of address that and what it is that we can do to, again, create momentum for our business, to grow it and scale it over time, okay? And there's 3 topics that I want to jump into when it comes to this, which is number 1, your brand. Number 2, your systems. And number 3, your sales, okay? First things first, we're going to jump into a brand, okay? What is a brand? Anyone? What is it? It's an identity, okay? I like that definition. Anyone else? Anna.
It's what other people say about you.
It's what other people say about you. She cheats. She works for Big Red Jelly. So. But it's true. So when I started at Big Red Jelly a handful of years ago now, I'll never forget one of the first things that Josh Webb, our CEO, said to me. So we were sitting in a room, we were talking about this very concept of what a brand is. And yes, it is an identity. Yes, it is what people say about you. But more so than that, you know, he went in and he described it as our brand is what people say about us when we're not in the room. It's the perceptions that people have about who you are, what you do, and the value that your company has to offer when you're not even there. And so it's important that when we talk about our brand, when we talk about our business, it does a handful of things for us. It builds trust quickly. It drives higher conversions for us, so it finds the right people to bring in. It increases referrals and opportunities to generate leads, and above all else, it supports who we are and justifies why we have our structure set up the way that we do. Okay? Now, going into that, what ultimately makes our brand strong is, I've kind of boiled it down to 3 things. And if you disagree with me, that's totally fine. I'm the presenter, you're not. Those 3 things, when it comes to establishing kind of a strong brand, making sure that this pillar of the flywheel is set up the right way, are number 1, making sure that your brand clearly defines who you are. There's a couple things that it needs to answer. Specifically, it needs to answer the questions of what do you do, who do you serve, and why is that important? And if you can clearly articulate those things to where your customers can understand those things, you're on the right path, okay? Number 2, your brand needs to build credibility. Specifically when I mean this, your brand not only needs to obviously show and talk about why you're the professional, but there needs to be real results kind of backing that up. And then lastly, your brand should ensure or it should establish consistency. You know, regardless if people find you on social media or on your website or through a radio ad, whatever the heck it is, they need to understand that you are who you are who you say you are, and you deliver the same results every single time. And if you can focus on these 3 things, I promise you, you're going to have a much stronger brand than other people in the market. Now next, after we've gone through and we've established a brand and what a strong brand is, next we want to get into systems. Now when I say systems, and you guys can cheat because obviously I filled out a lot of information on here, what are systems? What are business systems? Anyone? It's literally right here. You guys can read it if you want. I'm not going to be upset. What are systems?
Something that prevents lost leads.
Okay, yes, thank you. Very good reading skills. Anyone else?
It's like the momentum, right? What keeps your business going? What structure do you have set up so that you can just go?
Exactly. Okay, I love that. I love that answer. So if your brand is the first part of this flywheel that's going to establish kind of credibility in who you are, this is where we start to develop consistency. This is where we are able to go through and we're able to set things up in such a way to where we can create repeatable results time and time and time again. How many people in here have a business where you have employees? Anyone? Okay. Those people who just raised your hands, how many of you have ever said to yourselves, oh, geez, if I just hired like 3 of this one guy, this would be amazing. Or if I could just duplicate myself 7 more times, this would be great. How many of you have ever said that? Yeah, this is how we do that. This is where that comes into play. Why systems matter? These are the ways that we prevent lost leads. We make growth scalable and repeatable. We ensure consistent client experiences. And above all, we create predictability and peace of mind. Now, as we go through and as we're kind of building on these systems, there's a couple things that you should have when it comes to ensuring that systems are in place, okay? And again, I boiled this down to 3 things. You can come find me later if you disagree. Number 1, implementing a simple CRM. What's a CRM? Anybody? Big red jelly, don't answer. Yes, I saw a hand.
Client relation management system.
Yes, it's a client relationship management system or tool. Why is it important?
So you don't, because it costs more to gain more customers. So if you have a system to keep your customers that you already have, that's what that is supposed to help you do.
Absolutely. There have been way too many times that I've heard from somebody, oh, I just have it up here. It's all up here. It's totally fine. Yep, it's done. And I'm just like, no. Like, none of us are perfect, okay? And it doesn't matter how much OCD you have or how organized you are, there are going to be things that slip through the cracks. This tool is here to make sure that we, as business owners, we can stay organized and we understand what's important and what we need to do, okay? Next, it's important to establish creatable workflows. We all just talked about how there are people we wish we could duplicate. This is how you do it. You establish idiot-proof tasks, systems, emails, and other things that are in place to ensure that nobody is going to mess it up, most of the time. Okay, little caveat there. And then lastly, the last system that's important to have is as you're pushing people through these programs, as you're perfecting these systems, it's important to understand they're probably going to have things to say about it. They're going to be looking for opportunities to be able to share feedback and maybe even potentially refer people back to you. This missing piece is pretty big for a lot of businesses. There's always money and opportunities left on the table. So when you come to developing your systems, this again is a crucial element to ensure that your systems and things are repeatable time and time again. Okay? So now we've gone from establishing credibility, trust with our brand. We now understand, hey, here's how we establish consistency. We're going to go to the final piece of the growth flywheel, which is sales. Okay? Who here loves sales? This guy right here, yeah, he does. I know him quite well. I'm glad to see that Cameron loves sales and nobody else, because that's the general sentiment that most human beings have on the face of the earth. Like, we all have had that experience where there's been a sales guy we just don't like. But the reality is, as business owners, this is where we feed the wheel. This is how we gain momentum over time, and we're able to consistently deliver with that credibility and that consistency that we worked so hard to develop, okay? Sales are super important because they drive your revenue, they create momentum, and ultimately they accelerate the credibility, the trust, and the overall effectiveness of your brand, okay? Now when it comes to sales specifically, there's a couple things that your sales need to be doing for you, okay? Number one, they need to be going after the right people, okay? Too often, people spend way too much money in the wrong avenues, and it never really goes anywhere. When you have sales processes, sales teams that are out there to, activate your brand, build off this consistency that you're developing, you need to ensure that you're going in the right direction. You're going after the right channels that are going to give you the right people. Beyond that, you need to establish a consistent way to reach out to these individuals, again, that's simple, easy, and repeatable. Lastly, nobody likes to be sold anything. People hate it, okay? Trust me, I've worked in this profession for a long time. People don't like to be sold. They don't like to be closed. What people do like is to find solutions to the problems that they have. And ideally, those are the people you're bringing into your business. You should never lead with a pitch. You should always lead with value, okay? Now, after you've gone through and you've focused on these 3 pillars of the flywheel, what's going to happen is you're going to start producing customers. And this is what it's going to look like here. Your brand is going to start bringing people in. That brand is then going to feed into your systems, and it's going to help you, again, find repeatable ways that you can duplicate yourself or that ideal employee that you have to produce the same results over and over and over again. After you've gone through and done that, your sales team is going to come in or sales process, it's going to deliver, and it's going to produce clients. Well, hey, we don't want those people just falling off the face of the earth, because the reality is they're going to talk to people. They're going to let people know about their experience, what it was like, and if it was worth their time. We want to make sure that we're continuing to bring these people back, bringing more and more motion into this flywheel. I asked an important question at the beginning, what a flywheel was. Nobody really knows. Can anybody, based off of kind of what it is that I'm showcasing here, tell me what a flywheel is now? And it's okay, there is a wrong answer, but we won't judge you for it.
It's going to be a lot of the pieces in a cog of your wheel turn your business flow.
Yes. Great description. Sorry, what was your name? Matt. Matt? And Matt, what do you do?
I own Simplex Investment.
Okay. Matt, you are correct. A flywheel is a system or a methodology that builds momentum based off of your processes and makes it so that each piece builds into the next until you can build a consistent, fluid motion that repeats over time. This right here is a very simple way that as business owners we can go through and we can create sustainable growth so that we don't have to wear 12, 15 hats. We can establish these things to be able to grow consistently over time. So, in conclusion, there's a couple things that I would love for people to take away from this. Kind of 2 calls to action, if you want to call them that. Number 1, I would love for everybody in this room to take an opportunity to audit their growth flywheel, okay? Very simple, very easy to do. Number 1, let's talk about your brand, okay? Does it establish consistency? Does it target the right people? Number 2, systems and processes. Very simple question. Do you have a CRM? Do you keep track of things in your head? Okay. Number 3, am I going after the right channels? Am I tracking leads? Do I know where things are coming from? Do I know how my customers are finding me and what the triggers were to get them to engage with me? Okay? Very simple things. Number 2, after you've gone through and you've done that audit, you've asked these very simple questions of yourself, I want you to just pick one thing in each of those 3 areas to focus on. Just one thing. It could be establishing consistency. It could be, I'm going to set up and get a CRM. It could be, I'm going to go through and actually start tracking the information for the leads that are coming through. Whatever it is, focus on that one thing. And again, I promise you that if you can start building up these 3 areas of your business, specifically your brand, your systems and your processes, and your sales systems, you'll start seeing more consistent growth that'll sustain itself over time. Thank you.
More kind of a commentary, and then hopefully you can build off of it. But yeah, it seems that we live in like the tech capital of the world in Utah. So there's always a new tech device, always something that's trying to improve your systems. I know one of our values is like innovate or die. I'm not to say that externally because it's kind of morbid, but internally we do. So I like talking about flywheel. There's like a lot of reiteration, and then you're talking with clients, and then looking at your systems and improving on your systems constantly. Yeah, with AI, how does that tie into this? How often should somebody be looking at their systems? Because you also get fatigue if you're always getting something new. You can't get good at it. So how often should you be reassessing?
Yeah, that's a good question. So typically, from our perspective in kind of the branding and marketing world, technology that you establish for your business, more often than not when we interact with that, that's going to be websites, website tools such as scheduling, software, CRMs, things like that. Those are typically something where, they usually come out with updates, we'd say every 6 to 18 months, right around there. And it's usually around that time that you find you want to start assessing things. You definitely don't want to go longer than a 2-year period. How many people in this room have an iPhone from 2 years ago? About half of us, okay? You're probably due for an upgrade. But, it's one of those things where technology continues to evolve as quickly as it can. And so in a world of ever-emerging technologies, it's important to stay up on that as often as you can. I recommend not going longer than 2 years.
Very good decision. Any other questions? Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ashton. And every single event that I forget to read the bio for the first speaker. So, sorry, Ashton's really cool. Trust me. Okay, so our next speaker, our next speaker will be Owen Power. I will read your bio. So Owen Power is a seasoned financial professional and strategic leader with several decades of distinguished experience in public accounting, business consulting, and private industry. As a certified public accountant, CPA, and a South African chartered accountant, CA, letters, Owen brings a wealth of expertise to the table, specializing in guiding founders towards business growth and successful exits. Owen has held pivotal roles in both financial and executive capacities, showcasing his versatility and acumen. Notably, he served as the Chief Financial Officer and subsequently the Chief Executive Officer of a rapidly expanding medium-sized company. His strategic financial leadership played a pivotal role in the company's successful sale to a private equity firm, a testament to his ability to navigate complex business landscapes. As a senior finance guru and vice president of finance and operations for a dynamic tech startup, Owen was instrumental in steering the company through its growth phase and eventual sale. His keen insights into financial operations and strategic planning were critical in ensuring the startup's success. Outside the boardroom, Owen is a mentor with American Corporate Partners, a nonprofit that supports military veterans transition into a post-service career. Owen is also a dedicated advocate for the youth rugby development. Having served as the president of Utah Youth Rugby and as a board member of USA Youth and High School Rugby for several years, he has contributed significantly to the growth and promotion of the sport at the grassroots level. Owen Power continues to be a driving force in the world of finance, leveraging his extensive background to provide invaluable insights and guidance to businesses aiming for sustainable growth and successful exits. Everyone give it up for Owen.
Thank you. All that bio says is that I'm old. Imagine this. It has been very successful, but in the prior decade had really suffered. Revenues have gone down, margins have gone down. The company was starting to struggle with cash flows. The founder gathered together his team to try and chart a new course. Where do we go from here? The company had made a loss a couple of years before, and the team had managed to get it back to a small, profitable situation. But it wasn't enough. The founder felt that his legacy needed to grow. And how were we going to take this company now and make it grow again? There's a story that's told of a girl named Alice. And she comes upon a fork in the road. And she sees a cat sitting there and says, "Would you tell me, please, which way I ought to go from here?" The smiling cat replied, "That depends a good deal on where you want to get to." Alice thought about it for a minute and said, "I don't much care where." Whereupon the cat replied, "Then it doesn't matter which way you go." In that conference room, the founder laid out his vision, where he wanted the company to be. In just 3 years' time, he wanted a revenue of 25 million and net profit of 10% of it, so 2.5 million. The leadership team looked at him and just shook their heads. That's crazy. We would have to grow the revenues of this company by at least 50% just to get anywhere near that number. We don't think we can do it. But the founder said, "That's my vision. That's what I want." He began with the end in mind. I'm going to share some numbers, which have now arrived. I'm going to share with you some numbers that are not in your financial statements, but that can make a very big difference in helping you get to where it is that you want to be. I'm going to refer to these as key performance indicators, or KPIs for short. Now, these are just kind of the vanilla evergreen ones, the ones that every business should be looking at. But there are dozens, if not hundreds more, that business owners can identify and find that will help them drive the growth inside of their company. Let's start with these. Revenue per employee. Gosh, this thing is so expensive. Revenue per employee. So, this company that I've mentioned before, we had started looking at this as one of the indicators as we were trying to understand how do we get to that $25 million level. We made the calculation and determined that we were right around 200,000 per employee. And the way that we did that is we took the last 12 months sales or revenue and we divided it by the average number of employees that we had. That's the calculation. We got to 200,000. That gave us an idea of where we were at. But the question is, where did we need to get to? And we agreed that probably around 250,000 is where we needed to be. And so we started to put in place a plan that would help us get there. That meant growing sales and allowing our team to grow with those sales, but in a measured and a controlled way. So this KPI really helps us assess the productivity of the team and if we're using those resources wisely and if we're scaling appropriately. One of the things we learned as we moved along is that later on, after several years, we suddenly realized that our revenue per employee was declining. And we had to take a step back and understand what had happened. Our growth had started to happen really quickly, almost like a rocket ship just taking off. And with that, we started to hire and hire and hire. But before long, the economy started to change on us. And sales growth started to slow down. But we kept hiring. And the more we hired, the lower that revenue per employee. And once we realized that it had gotten to a level that was too low and not sustainable, it was a little late. We hadn't paid attention closely enough to that particular KPI. And we were in a little bit of cash flow difficulty, and suddenly we had to make some significant reductions in force. If we had been tracking that more carefully, we would have slowed down the the hiring, perhaps even stopped, and maybe even if necessary done a smaller reduction in force, but instead we had to make some significant cuts. So when your RPE is declining, it may be that you need to cut your force, but maybe it also means you need to invest more in the team and in the systems that you have that we mentioned before to be able to grow your sales better. So it's a good indicator to understand where you're at. Gross profit percentage. This one is another one that everyone knows, right? It's sales, less your cost of sales, giving you gross profit. But what is that percentage? If you take the gross profit amount and divide it by your revenue, you arrive at that percentage. Maybe it's 30%. That sounds pretty cool, right? But maybe 30% is not enough. Maybe it's just right. But one of the key things about any of these KPIs is that seeing the number once is not enough. You need to track it. You need to understand how it's shifting and changing month over month, year over year. Before I started at this manufacturing company, they had started to go through a decade of declining revenue and declining margins. When I arrived, they had actually found that they were in a situation of making a loss for the first time in their 30-year history. So I started to do a deep dive analysis on the financials and the information that was available, and discovered, to my horror, that the margin that they thought they had was actually incorrect, and the real number was much lower than what they thought it was. The reason was some of the accounting was off, and not all of the costs would be properly accounted for in the right place. Very bad. Yes, the controller lost their job, but that's a different story. What was more important, though, is that the sales team did not know truly what the cost of the product was that we were manufacturing. So as they would go to market and they would sell at a particular price, thinking they were getting, say, a 30% margin, they were actually only selling at a 15% or less margin. And that had been happening for years over years over years. So what did we do? Once we understood what that was, we did a number of things, including negotiating with our suppliers for better rates, making other improvements within the building. More importantly, we gave the right information to the sales team that allowed them to quote at the right prices. They went into market, increased their pricing into the marketplace, we increased our sales and profitability with it. If the company had done the work and they could see the analysis showing them the decline, if they had done the work to understand what was driving that, then they could have saved their company a lot of money for several years. Net income percentage. You can tell I've gone from the top of the P&L down to the bottom. This is the number that most owners of businesses are really very interested in. Probably because they're going to have to pay taxes on that one. So that's the one that worries them the most. But it's also the one that tells them how much they've made, what it is that they've earned. And the percentage is simply taking that net income and again dividing by the revenue and arriving at that. And in my experience, a 5 to 10% range is typically pretty good for most businesses. Some will naturally be higher, some could even be lower. Take a Walmart, for instance. Super high volume of sales, but their net income percentage is actually very, very low because they work at very low margins. But when you're selling billions and billions and billions of dollars, that 1 or 2% actually adds up to a lot. This is important because this is where the rubber hits the road. This is really where the cash flow into your business is coming from. And so if that number is starting to get low, you might want to dig into the expense structure of your company and identify places to change. However, I learned from sad experience that cost cutting is not the only way to success in improving that number. There's really 3 things. Think of it as a 3-legged stool. 1, yes, you may need to reduce costs. Think about, as we spoke about the tech world, think about all of those subscriptions for all of those software applications that you have. Do you really need all of them? Do you really need 20 seats when there's only 5 employees? Do you really need to have 2 systems? The company I'm working with right now has identified that they have 2 CRM systems operating in parallel with each other. They'll be combining those. The current estimates are they'll save around $60,000 in the first year just by doing that. So cost cutting is important. But related to that, getting a handle on what our direct costs are. So if you're buying and selling a product, are you getting the best price from your suppliers? If you're manufacturing a product, are your operations inside of the production factory, are they efficient? And there's a number of KPIs that we can go into there. And then third and finally is sales. That's always going to be the fastest way to dig out of a hole is to grow sales. Without those 3 working in tandem, it's very, very difficult to dig out. Now, it would be remiss if I wasn't at an event sponsored by a company called Big Red Jelly that I don't talk about some kind of marketing KPIs. And there's 2 that I think that are very useful, and most companies use them, and it's really one that everyone should use. The first is customer acquisition cost. How much does it cost me to get that new customer? So a simple example, if I spend $100 on Google Ads and I get 2 new customers as a result, my customer acquisition cost is going to be $50 a customer, which is great, but if those 2 customers only spend $10 each with you, that's kind of a very bad return on investment. So understanding what that number is going to be a big driver as to where you're going to be investing your money. And clearly, if that customer acquisition cost is very high, you may be spending too much on your marketing, but you may also, as we learned from the previous speaker, you may just be targeting the wrong audience. And so, little plug for Big Red Jelly, if you use them, they'll be able to help you figure that out. Right, Josh? The related one then is the customer lifetime value. So the idea is we want a customer to come back, back, and back, and back again, right? And the software companies eventually figured that out. They didn't have to just sell you a box of software once and hope you would come back and get the upgrade. They just make you pay for it every month now. And then they send you upgrades whether you like it or not. But over a period of time, that customer value, or lifetime value, really does extend. Now, not all businesses are like that, but I can tell you that I love a company called Fair Harbor, and they get me every time. I get a little text just when I'm thinking about it, I get a little email when I'm not thinking about it, and I spend way too much money with them. So my customer lifetime value for them is pretty high. So going back to the Google Ads, if that $50 customer that you've paid to acquire that customer keeps coming back and keeps buying $10, $10, $10, $10 every day for the next 10 years, then the $50 to acquire them is probably well worth it. So, financial statements are essential. And if you don't already have a system or a process whereby you get a set of financial statements within 10 months of 10 days after the end of month end, you really should invest the time and the money and the resources to get that. Those financials tell you where you're at. With those, setting yourself a goal for at least 10 years out, and then break it down into a 3 and a 1 year goal, helps you understand what that pathway is, what that road is that you're going to be taking. The key performance indicators help you understand whether or not you're on track. Think about it as the dashboard in your car, the gas indicator, the oil, the temperature, the mileage, all of those kind of things are there to tell you how the car is performing and how you can be doing. Those are the KPIs within your business. And as you start to determine that, those are the numbers that you need to hit your destination. These are the numbers that help you steer, not just reflect about your business. Going back to that conference room in Riverside Country Club, as we all walked out that room, we were just shaking our heads. We don't think we can do this. That's just too much. But we sat down, put together the KPIs that we needed, and all of these that I've showed you are ones that we used, plus others, and started to track them every week. Looking 13 weeks back, every week, how are we doing? What do we need to do to improve? In the end, 1 year early, we hit the 25 million revenue and the $2.5 million in net income. A couple of years after that, we took that company to the market and sold it to a private equity firm with 70% premium on what we originally expected we would get. These things work, they can work for you. Use them and you'll ignite your growth. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, I do have one. From Josh.
Just in working with small businesses, kind of put them on the hot seat, what are some of the classic pitfalls that you see? Networking with people, hear a lot of startup founders and what have you when it comes to those KPIs. What are some of the classic pitfalls that you see in startup founders?
So the first is that they run the business based on how much cash is sitting in the bank. And I won't ask for a show of hands, but I would expect majority probably say that that's the way to do it. Which is why I said if you don't have financials every single month, you're already behind. Because then you're just literally putting out fires all the time. The second is not having a vision. Not actually saying, this is where I want to be in the future. This is the end goal, this is where it wants to be at. And there's lots of really great tools and techniques that you can use that will help you be able to set that. The one that I've used successfully at this company that I was referencing to is OKRs, Objectives and Key Results. It's a great foundational system to be able to help you set appropriate goals. There's a whole system that's related to it that helps you track those and helps you monitor those as you go. Another shout out, perhaps to Josh, he had introduced me to the book called Traction. Another great system for running businesses and really implemented that as well. So I would say those two are probably.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much. Here, one more hand. Okay, we're going to take our next speaker will be Richard.
Okay.
So, for many years, Richard ran his own business consulting practice, helping organizations build stronger, smarter operations. He has worked with Fortune 500 giants like Citibank, Porsche Automobiles, FedEx, and Northrop Grumman, to name a few. Over time, Richard waded more and more into the small business community. Shout out to all of the small business owners. And has now worked with and coached hundreds of small to mid-sized businesses across the country in key areas like business growth, process improvement, and leadership development. Today, Richard leads the Salt Lake team at BBSI and serves as the branch's primary consultant for small business growth. He is passionate about helping business owners streamline operations, increase efficiency, and scale with confidence. In every engagement, Richard strives to deliver practical, actionable insights that business leaders can put to work right away. Everyone give it up for Richard.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Nice. Well, thanks everybody for being here. And great job to Ashton and Owen. And what a great job. And I'm so lucky to get to share stage. Fantastic. Elena's been so great to work with. You guys, everybody, can we give a little clap for a big We want to sing together. That's all right. Hey, we have very similar topics too. I think we all started with a similar theme, right? Business growth. And so there are a couple areas where my slides parallel both Ashton's and Owen's. Be kind of cool. If you can find where they parallel, you get extra entries into the graph. We do that? Yeah. We do that. Okay. So leading up to this, is this going to go? All right. So leading up to it, I was thumbing through the news, and I saw a cool story about Tesla automobiles and Elon Musk and a new compensation package is on the table. Let me see the story. Last couple of weeks. If it goes through, Elon Musk will be the first ever trillionaire. Can you believe that? Trillionaire. You thought about how much money $1 trillion is? Oh, $1 trillion. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. So I was thinking about, well, how much is $1 trillion? So I did some, in my consulting career, I did some work with extra space storage, so I think of like storage properties. So if you had a storage property, 500 units, that's the average size of storage property, and you go to one of the roll-up doors, and you roll it up, and there's $1 million in there, sitting on a pallet, and you go to the next door, you roll it up, $1 million in there. 500 units, every one of them $1 million. Think about how much $1 million is, first of all. The median income in the U.S. is less than $50,000. We'll round up, we'll say $50,000. That's 20 years of work to equal $1 million. It's in one unit. There's 500. That's just 500 million. You guys can check the math. Who has their stereo? Check the math. You would need 2,000 storage properties with 500 units. Every unit rolled the door. That's $1 million. That's how much $1 trillion is. That'd be 40 per state. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. So it relates to what we're talking about here. I was even thinking if Elon, after that, if he loses $1 million, like he's walking around, it's like, that isn't much. How could it just have that? If he lost that, the average retiree right now, net worth, or the average retiree right now, you know? Take a guess. Any guesses? Average retiree, what's the net worth of the average retiree right now? 500K. 500K higher. Million. 1.2 million is the average. So Elon Musk losing $1 million would be the equivalent of your average retiree losing how much? $1.20. Elon's like, I don't have where that $1 million, but I don't know where it went. And that would be the equivalent of somebody losing $1.20 if they're your average person. So a lot of money. Here's the thing, and why it relates to what we're talking about. As we talk about building a business, you can grow into. Owning a business and being an entrepreneur is the only way you can make that, well, not that kind of money. Nobody's going to make that kind of money. But that you can make generational kind of money, life-changing kind of money. Some people do it working for an organization. That's great. CEOs, CFOs, you probably know some CFOs that have done really well. That's great. But there is an element of a common individual making good money or building their own business, right? It's what drives us, why we want to do it. But maybe it's not money that motivates you at all. Maybe you're motivated by other things. When I was young, growing up, my dad was a school teacher. And being young, I didn't think it was a very cool career. I wasn't impressed. You have those career days at school. They still do those. I don't know if they still do those. They still do career days. Yeah. You invite your parents to come to. So I never invited my dad. Never. He's a school teacher. There's a school teacher up there. Let the doctors, the lawyers, let them come in. But over the years, as I grew up, and I spent more time, and we'd be out at a shopping center, or we'd be at a grocery store, or out somewhere, people would come up to my dad, and they would say, Mr. Webb, thank you for being such a great teacher. You influenced my life in so many ways. Some even credited the career that they were in to the teaching that you'd done. And I started to think, maybe I had it wrong. Maybe it's not all about money. And so whatever motivates you, if you're motivated by money, if you're motivated by other things, building a business, either way is a great way to get there. So we're going to talk about building a business you can grow into. And in the hundreds of businesses that I coach, I might be 1,000, I don't know, I should keep track. That'd be a good resume thing, like having a business I coach. These are common denominators. These aren't the only things. These aren't the only things that make a business work. But these are common denominators. If you can nail these three things, you're doing really well. Does anybody see a parallel already to Ashton's? Systems, yeah. We're going to talk. He talked about systems within marketing. Talk about systems a little more holistically, but very similar. I'm not going to go as deep. I'm just going to keep it really superficial because you guys are day. I don't fall asleep. So, all right. So these are three things. Let's start with Start with vision. do I get to just one side? Can I just be that somebody's just listening? Are you controlling it back there?
That's all you.
It's all-
Those are all I do. I'm just here to assist,
It's
just
my
in
fault.
case it doesn't work.
All right, let's talk about music. I know it doesn't do the animations. It just brings it all up. Okay, there's the whole thing. Oh, you had that one in your mind. That's a famous quote. You guys recognize that one? Where's that come from? Stephen Covey. Thanks, Ralph. All right. So vision. Here's a story that I always tell, talking about vision, really talking about some things that can pull us away from vision. When I was in high school, this is about the time that I realized my dad actually did have a cool career. When I was in high school, maybe 14, 15, I had the coolest best friend. Some of you heard the story. I'm sure you heard the story. Coolest best friend. Japanese, came from a Japanese family. He was the first generation Japanese here. And going over to his house is like a cultural exchange program. The Japanese art. You go into his room, he had the Japanese flag, and he was a black belt in karate, which was really cool. When you're 15, your best friend's a black belt in karate, that's awesome. And he had the Mr. Miyagi headband from Karate Kid, remember that one? So one day I go in there, and we're just hanging out, and he had come back from karate class, he had his sparring gear. So being 15 years old, what do? I pick up the bamboo katana, and I say, "Bam!" I'm ready to go. Let's do this. And I can remember distinctly how intimidating it was. He didn't break eye contact. He just very calmly reached over, grabbed the bow staff, and gets ready to go. But I'm ready. I'm 15. I'm all, yeah, let's do this. So, and he just with super precision hits me in the toe, and then hits me in the arm. Bam. Hardly. I think when you're in karate class, I think they tell you hit someone hard enough. They don't want to play anymore. But bam, he hits me pretty hard. But I think I'm 15. You know, you're full of much and all that, ego and everything. But, yeah, let's do it again. So this time does exactly the same thing. Hits me in the toe, and this time he hits me in the side of the head. And not as hard as the arm, but enough that I couldn't open my eye for a second. I couldn't see where to set the sword down. But I asked him about, I said, what is up with the toes? Why do you hit me in the toes? He says, distractions. I can hit you in the toes, and I know it'll distract you to drop your guard. I can hit you anywhere I want. And we can continue to play over and over and over. I'll do the same thing, and it'll work every time. So I use that story coaching businesses to illustrate the power of distractions and how easily distracted we are. Everybody knows that happens, right? We all have that task list that kind of work written down on a post-it note. 10 things I gotta get done today. At the end of the day, how many of the 10 things get done? 2. It's always 2, right? Why is it always 2? I got 2 things done. Why didn't you get all 10 things done? Distractions. And some of these are necessary distractions. It's not to say that the distractions we can just get rid of them. Sometimes they're necessary things. We gotta put out fires. But if we're focused, if we have a crystal clear vision, it'll bring us back. Right? It'll bring us back really quickly. Beginning with the end in mind, you have to steal something from Owen's slides. Begin with the end in mind. Know what we're building in the long term. Like building a house. If I'm building a house for just me, I know what kind of house I need to build. If I'm building a house for an entire family, that's a bigger house. So if I know what I'm building, I've got to build it accordingly. So if you're building a business you can grow into, build a big business. Doesn't mean you're building every piece immediately. You build it over time. Begin with the end in mind. I like the imagery of the city planner versus the firefighter also. What does the city planner do? What does the firefighter do? They fight the fire. City planner, they're very methodical, right? They're going to, okay, school goes here, city buildings go here, shopping center goes here, agriculture goes over, right? They're very deliberate about where they're putting things. Firefighter, not so much. They go where the fire is. They're very reactive. Fire's burning there, that's where we're going. Fire's burning over there, that's where we're going. Right? So very different. In your business, you want to be a planner. You want to be the city planner. You want to build, you want to put things where they go. You have to be a firefighter sometimes. But the trick is, fight the fire and quickly come back. Because that's your role. I'm a temporary firefighter. I'm a full-time planner. That's what you have to do. Set clear goals for what you want. How you're going to get there. Building a staircase is a great example. If you're like most business owners, the same guys that Owen described as they manage by how much money is in the bank account. They typically are very reactive. Here's the problem of the day, here's the fire, I'm gonna build a step right here. So I can get that next step in my business. Oh, here's another fire over here. I'm gonna build a step. There's the next step in my business. Problem is, by the time it's a staircase, it's all over the place. If you're deliberate, you're building the staircase first. So starting here, going there, and build a very straight staircase. Same thing building a business. Okay? Lock into a vision, write it down. Very old school, right? You all heard that. Write your vision down, put it under here, put it in on your dashboard in your car. Vision board's been really popular, right? We talk about writing down something very old school. But it is so important because if you can lock into your vision, my son says that all the time. If you lock in. If you can lock into your vision and and really focus on it, it brings you back from those distractions. When Kenny comes around with his bow staff and distracts you by hitting you in the toes or whatever the fire is for the day, if you have your vision somewhere you can see it readily, it brings you back really quick. The more clearly you can see your vision, this is really key. The more clearly you can crystallize, you can see that vision of what you're building long term, easier it is to chase it, easier it is to build around it. If you're building something and it's just kind of nebulous, like, what are you building? And you kind of, I don't know, maybe it kind of looks like this, but you don't really have it down. It becomes really hard to chase. It becomes really hard to build that. So lock into a vision, have it crystal clear what it is you're building for long term. Write it down. Okay. Systems. Did I actually talk about systems? Talk about marketing systems. There's another quote: growth crushes businesses that don't have systems. Who did that one? Stephen Covey did the other one. I see him. No. Nobody knows? I just put it on the slides. It sounds like a quote. It doesn't sound like a quote. I'll tell you what, if you guys use that, I get royalties. I get nickel every time you use it. But it's true. I've seen this over and over and over. If you don't have systems in your business, you're just that guy who's putting out fires and building a little here, building a little there based on the fires that come up. When you grow, when your company grows, that growth crushes you. You cannot keep up with it. It's just too much. So you have to have systems. Document your processes early. So Ashton talked a lot about your marketing processes. Did a fantastic job. Yeah, if you want to build the right flywheel, talk to Ashton, talk to the great jelly. But whatever you're doing, document the processes and do it early. Because a lot of business owners think, oh, I'm wearing all the hats. Right? I'm too busy. I don't have time to write up my processes now. Well, when you get bigger, you're going to be more busy. When you hire employees, you don't get more time. In fact, what happens if you don't have documented, and you start hiring employees, they're going to start doing it their way. That's not your way. And you don't have anything to bring them back to because you didn't document it. So document early. Get things established, crystal clear what your processes are before you start hiring. Along the way, update them and refine them. This goes back to that firefighter. If we all have to put out fires, but when you're putting out the fires, don't just put out the fire and then get back to it. Use the fire to update the process. Every time you have a fire, ask yourself the question, what can I do systematically so that doesn't happen again? Put in new processes. And then you're building processes as well. So update them and refine them. How about this one? You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your system. You guys recognize that, right? That's a quote. I didn't make that one up. Who did that one? Oh my God, it's a Daniel Clear. Yeah. And perfect for what we're talking about, because you're going to have your vision. Your vision's way up here. Your goals are way up here. But if you don't build systems that match that vision, you're not going to get it. You're only going to ascend as high as you build those systems. So your systems determine your success. Okay? Become a student of process, visit other businesses, ask questions. That goes back to refining your process. So really study what other people are doing in their processes, what works, ask a lot of questions. When you're in an event like this and you talk to someone who's a business owner and you're going through something, you're having a process that isn't quite as clean or crisp as you want, ask them. Say, hey, what would you do in this situation? I'd love to have people ask that question. Okay? Ensure your systems and processes are used consistently, especially when you start hiring people and you've always done it your way, and now here they come, they want to start doing it their way. Make sure you reinforce, get them to do it your way. That's the secret sauce to your business. We were working with a cabinet company a few years ago, and you know what a radio arm size is? You guys know what a radio arm size is? It's you put the work on the table, and you pull the side this way, across it, right? So it slides on the rail this way. So one of their employees, he'd been there forever, but he had this habit of reaching across the blade on the other side and pulling the side. He was only cutting small pieces, so it's not running all the way back across his arm. He's just doing the best. His hand's on the wrong side. So he's not cutting his hand until he cuts his hand. Sure enough, he cuts his hand, and it's a huge claim for the company. Workers' comp claim, huge. I mean, there's a lot going on. There's a lot happening. You have to go to the doctor, get your hand rebuilt. It's expensive. So it was a huge claim for the company. Long recovery, all this stuff. He comes back to work, got his hand bandaged up, takes a little more time to get out of the bandage and everything. He's back on the floor, he's back doing work. He's having a shot. Guess what the owner sees him doing? Exactly. He's backing out the radio arm side, he's got the hand on the wrong side of the blade, he's pulling it. Now the owner comes over and says, no, we're not doing it. Now he's enforcing the right processes. But that is a tribute to even when you cut your hand off, you're still going to go back. So employees are going to want to do it their way, regardless of what you say. You really have to push. But make sure your systems, because that's what's worked for you, make sure your system and process. All right, last one. People know what you need. Individuals and skill sets. Know what you need, not just for what you need now, but what you need in the future. I was working with one of our clients, and she was building the future state of her business. And she put up on her wall, we had whiteboard walls in her office, put up the entire work chart for the future state. She only had her and 2 employees at the time. She had this big organization chart. CEO had a director level, VP level, some of her marketing, some of her sales, all of these positions that existed. So she got really clear, really focused about what she needed. And she even went to start creating some job descriptions for people that didn't exist. Like, you're my VP of sales, here's what I want you to do. And she created those. And it made it really easy for her to then go build that. She was crystal clear about what she was building. What else did it do for her business? What does it do to her 2 employees when they see that structure? Any ideas?
Give them something to work towards.
Yeah, it gives them something to work towards. It gives them hope in a future for themselves. They might say, I see a VP of human resources up there. I would love to be your VP of human resources. Now the business owner can have a really productive conversation with that person about what milestones they can hit. Now you're having really productive discussions about performance and contributing to the company. Anything else it does for those employees? Give them a little confidence in their leader. Yeah, this is somebody who knows where she's going. This is somebody who knows what she's building. I have trust. I trust this person. She's got all that out on the wall, right? So really important. Know what you need in skill sets. Get the people you'll need, even if you can't afford them. How do you do that? How do you get the people you need if you can't afford them? How do you hire somebody if you can't afford them? What? I really thought you said Manny Penny. I don't know why when you said.
I heard that too.
Some people plan ahead. That's great. That's a much better answer. Yeah, that's good. What do you mean by plan ahead?
I mean, well, this is a little indirect, but I also tell my clients, ask for the line of credit and those type of things before you need it.
Yeah.
Because when you need it, it's kind of too late. The bank says no. So kind of that. Set money aside, have the line of credit, the things so that you can.
Yeah.
And you're not going to put out a fire.
Love
So that's when you might plan ahead for what you can't afford.
Yeah. Get those pieces that you know you're going to need. Get them lined up ahead of time. Oh, that's great. Yeah. With the people, same thing. Get those people in place. Not everybody is motivated by money. We talked about it. Some of the things that motivate me are trying to replicate some of the successes that I saw my dad have. About having people be appreciative and say, change my life. Change the direction of my life. That's meaningful to me. And I've done things for a lot less money than I could do things because I like those experiences. You'll find people in your organization, if you have a crystal clear vision and you have a purpose, it's meaningful. There's There's a lot of people in our workforce right now that are searching more for purpose and meaning than they are. So get the people you need, find those people. If other issues, go somewhere where it's quiet, go somewhere where you can really think you can spend some time on this. But ask yourself these questions. What does my business look like in 5 years? What's it going to look like? What does it really look like? What do I want it to look like? What do I want it to be, and what do I want it to provide? What do I want it to provide me? What do I want it to provide to my employees? What do I want to provide to my community? To the world around me? Build all those things and again, make that vision crystal clear for what you're trying to build. Systems. This is actually a question that Ashton asked, right? If you weren't there, could your business continue to run without you? Even take it a step further. If you get abducted by aliens and you're not around, you're just gone. Is it possible that someone can step in and run your business without you? That's a really, really good exercise. Here's why it's a good thing. Most people think it's a good thing because, well, if I ever sell or if I ever hire people, they need to be able to run it without me. It's good for those things, but it's also good for just that clarity, just making sure that everything is working the right way. When you hire somebody, there's less training, it's already put together here. These are the processes, these are the systems that already exist. It opens up windows for you that just give you a lot of options. And then my people, do my people raise my ceiling or do they lower my ceiling? Do they help me get to where I want to be, or am I gonna have to get new people? Like I got people that can get me by for now, but if I'm gonna triple my revenue, these aren't the people I need. Right? Ask yourself that question, and then ask yourself the question: what do I have to do to get the right people? Can I train these people up, or do I need to go out and find new people? Okay. Extra credits. You can build that future state org chart. That's a fun exercise, and that's really, really valuable. Build that future state org chart, create the positions, and some job descriptions. And again, it's all about clarity. If you get really clear on these, and you can get really good at these, everything else starts to fall in line. These are if we were writing a book like the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, you've all read that, everybody's read that. Remember, he patterned that after going and just observing people, what highly effective people did. So in my experience working with so many business owners, just observing business owners, what do they do to be successful? These are the things that they do to be successful. These are a lot of other things too, but these are the common denominators. They all have a crystal clear vision of what they're building. They all have rock solid systems and not stellar things. All right, any questions for me? Yes?
So when you evaluate people, like, are you evaluating strict numbers? Like, do you coach people to do it just based off of numbers or based off of culture? And
that is such a good question.
How do you evaluate if the people are actually lifting you up or?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it depends on your organization, it depends on their role. Some roles are much more driven by key performance indicators. Other roles are much more their impact to the organization. Right? Human resources tends to be less something that you can measure empirically and more something that's measured by the kind of impact that they have, sometimes person to person, certainly on the organization as a whole. Whereas sales is usually a very numbers-driven, KPI-driven function. Right? So it depends on the role, it depends on your organization. Do you have some people that you need to measure?
Well, we did. Not so much anymore.
Not so much anymore? What did they do? Those people, what did they do?
Well, they were sales, but it was interesting because, like, the way they worked with the team was not super effective.
Yeah.
And they were bringing in results for a minute, but that tended to dwindle. So
yeah,
we could do the numbers, but it was hard to navigate it when the KPIs that were hindering the business the most were the ones that they weren't being measured on.
Yeah, and that's a great example. So you can measure the KPIs, and maybe they're knocking it out of the park on the KPIs. But if they're causing other problems in your organization, they raise your ceiling, they lower your ceiling. If they can't get that fixed, if that's a personality thing and they can't get that fixed, they probably lower the ceiling for you. So it sounds like they're not there.
No.
Good job. Way to go. You did it. Any other questions? Yes, Josh.
Speaking of system, this is a problem I have. Do you have a recommended system for, let's see, annual planning, plan out a year, 2 year, 5 years? Is there a system you recommend to help stick to the plan without putting out, being a firefighter while still being somewhat agile as things change throughout the year? What do you typically recommend to small business owners? Like, hey, review it quarterly, for example, or how do you go about that?
Yeah, it's at least quarterly, but yeah, and again, it depends a little bit on the organization. It depends on what those mile markers are. Some of it, I'd probably recommend, I'm just thinking generally, maybe for something like Big Red Jelly, quarterly reviews would be really good. There's probably something that you can do in every meeting to reinforce at least part of that vision. Just take a minute and just reinforce. We got 20 KPIs we want to hit over the next 5 years, but our sales for the month of October is sales month. Let's all talk about sales and how we can improve sales. With November, we're going to talk about another topic, right? So I would have an ongoing. The biggest risk you can run, especially something like that, isn't necessarily having a good plan. It is keeping people to stick to the plan, but it's keeping it top of mind. Right? We all get busy, we get distracted. There's a lot of things that come up, and so it's keeping it top of mind, keeping everybody focused on the same thing. So a lot of repetition. That's a great question. Any other questions? No more? All right.
Let's give Richard a Guys, we've had some amazing speakers today. I love coming to these events because I learn so much. Like, it's so fun to have people who know so much more than I do in these aspects, and just I feel so good. It's an extra couple hours of work, but so worth it. So worth it. Okay. Let's give one more round of applause for all of our speakers. For joining us and for providing all that insight. I know everybody here is so grateful. So our speakers will be around after the event. If anyone has additional questions, they're here. So track them down. You know what they look like. Next. Oh, sorry. Okay. Time for the prizes. Okay, so we're going to start with prizes with our unreleased Big Red Jelly merch. We don't even know what it looks like yet. So, what? Yeah, that's the general one. Andy's going to spin our wheel for us. And if you hear your name called, just check in with Haley afterwards. Haley, stand up really quick. This is Haley. Hello, Haley. Check in with Haley afterwards just to make sure that we have your information correct. We can get you everything. The giveaways. So, okay, perfect. Go ahead and spin that wheel. Okay, we're going to give away 2 pieces of Big Red Jelly unreleased merch special edition. Our first winner is AJ Nielsen.
Wait,
our next winner of Big Red Jelly merch will be Scott Pace. I'm so excited. Okay, next one we're giving away is going to be the iPad. So get excited. Oh, so close. The winner is Steven Sabisky. Next, we move on to our business-centered giveaway items. So first thing we're going to be giving away is the Power Performance Review, which is a financial review for your company. You'll be able to sit down with Owen and go over your finances and kind of what you can do going forward. So it's huge. It's going to be awesome. And our winner is, I can find my life. Peter did go past life. All right. Our winner is, I'm so sorry if I pronounced this wrong, it's Kemish, what was his last name? Hermosia. Congratulations. And our next prize that we're giving away, our business prize, will be a 4-hour coaching session with Richard. We're going to give away 2 of these. So our first winner of this is Jesse Marchant. One more for 4 hours of business coaching. All right, our next one is going to be Spencer Gray. Last prize that we're going to be giving away tonight is courtesy of Big Red Jelly. Shout out, they're kind of cool. It's going to be a one-page brand guide. We're going to do a visual identity for your business. And the winner for that is Chris Drummond. Thank you guys again so much for being here. I hope you got some great value out of the event. Really quickly, we do this every quarter. So next quarter, we'll kind of be talking about, wrapping up your year and starting your next year, having success for next year. So go ahead and RSVP to our next event. It will be on Thursday, November 20th. So we'd love to see you back. Scan the QR code. You can find it on LinkedIn. Follow us on LinkedIn to keep up with all of our events and everything that we're doing. We send out newsletters. We send out all sorts of stuff. So, and that's all me. So if you want to see everything that I send out, sign up. Like and subscribe. And then also, in addition to that, we also have an upcoming webinar. We're starting a webinar series with our Grow team. So we're going to be, our first webinar, shout out Connor who's been manning the lights and music. So party lights, that's good. So this first webinar we'll be talking about creating and implementing a marketing strategy. So a few main topics we're going to be talking about is discovering who your target audience is, establishing and defining your business goals, and what your marketing opportunities are for your business. So keep an eye out for that as well. We'll be posting about that on socials and sending out newsletters. So keep an eye out for that information. And once again, thank you to our sponsors. So grateful for everybody that helps us be here today. So, and then one more plug. And I think that's it. Awesome. Thank you so much again. If you want a prize, make sure you check in with Haley. Make sure you have your information correct so we can get that to you. But I hope you all have a wonderful night and feel free to continue to network and grab more pizza.